First album review of the day brought to you up Gary's way. Bing. It's Solar Power by Lorde. 12 songs, 43 minutes long. Her third LP after 2017's Melodrama, which we both absolutely fucking adore that record. Really enjoyed it.
Pure Heroine, which like caught her on the
Pure
scene.
Heron.
She was really like the anti-pop queen of the 2010s, essentially.
Yes, definitely. Pure Heroine just like exploded her onto the scene right away when she was quite young too in 2013. And then Melodrama about 4 or 5 years after that, more of almost like a breakup type record, but it had a lot of great sounds and great substance in it throughout. Then
And
this album is
I'll also say, like,
definitely,
I just want to say really fast, like, just to contextualize, because it's been a minute. Like, a lot of Lorde's, like, the things people liked about Lorde are the things people like about Billie Eilish. How, like, she was a really
yes,
major pop
definitely big
star, but,
parallels.
like, musicality was just far superior to most pop that you got at the time. But
100%.
also, the lyrics themselves were very subversive. Her hit song Royals was, I mean, like, yeah, instrumentally very different from what was happening at the time. It kind of fits in, but like mostly very different. And it was just talking about how me and my friends just going to be like kind of average more or less. We'll never be royals. We'll never have all the fancy things. We can like
Yeah,
aspire to all of them, but like it won't. These sort of like everyday person messages in, you know, hyper stardom pop music, where you usually get these exaggerations of, you know, life, you know, see also all of trap. Yeah, Lorde was presented someone who's like down to earth, kind of like normal. And in the lead up to this album, she like went off the grid, took a piano, went to New Zealand, and you can kind of see that like she took a lot more of an acoustic method, along
for
with
sure. Way
moving with
stripped
some of
back.
her
Of,
for some of her producers, let's say.
yes. Yeah, definitely way stripped back approach within everything. It's a different sound for her, which I can appreciate because, you know, as somebody who's been a big pop artist for almost nearly a decade, especially has been really like it's been a sought out record. You have a lot of pressure on you to either like go back to your sound, revert it, or to try and push yourself forward as an artist. So you're always caught in this awkward thing too when you're that big. Granted, her sophomore record was just incredible, but with Solar Power, it's stripped back, it takes a step back, and it looks a little bit more introspective onto things. Another Jack Antonoff produced record. He produced her second record, which is actually his first record that he had full producer control, which is interesting. But anyways, how he's like been all over the place, especially this last year and this year, all over these pop artist records. But more on that later. Starting off, it starts off with The Path, and you can hear it right away where it's like, whoa, this is different compared to what we've had with Lorde from before. Um, Vocals are fantastic. I love the layering of it and everything. Like that's still on point. Her lyrics and everything are still great. Um, and I thought it's a decent opening track to kind of get you into the idea of how it is. It's going to be slower. It's going to be more acoustic, a little bit airy and stuff. I was like, okay, let's kind of see what happens. And we got that when we heard the single too a few months ago. We're both like, okay, well, let's hear it in the context of this record and then really like dive into it from there. Um, After that, then you get solar powered and solar power because, you know, California, I can't speak words. Um, Same thing. It's that acoustic. I never like this track was decent, like especially towards the end. I thought because it picked up a little bit on it. It's like okay, it like grows into this nice track and stuff.
I very much liked
Um,
its evolution for sure.
exactly because the I think the issue I had with the path and a bunch of the songs throughout this album is it picks a pace and it stays at that pace. It doesn't. There aren't too many that kind of go up and down. There are a little bit here or there, but sometimes it could just be a bit flat. But Solar Power is one of those nice ones where it just blooms into this gorgeous song into it. And I'm like, okay, I really enjoy that one. And then after that, you have California, which then this is when, for me, I start to get a little worried with it because it just gets really boring to me. And then it almost sounds like Lorde tried to make a Lana Del Rey track. It's just like it kind of sounds familiar to it's similar to that, which then gets into the next song, Stone at the Nail Salon, which sounds almost identical to Wild at Heart by Lana Del Rey. That came out earlier this year. Chemtrails of the Chem Club. I listened to this track, I had to stop and I'm like, am I going crazy because this intro sounds almost exactly the same. It's just slowed down in Alana's version, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Oh,
And that's when I had to stop, and I was like, pause for a sec.
I'm so happy we do this podcast because I was in my head like, okay, this middle part of the album, not just like a couple songs, and like the middle part of the album sounds very, very Lana Del Rey like. And I'm like, I don't know if it's just like sexist Hotep Dan approaches with the dyed hair, or like is it like or, or is it some other kind of like thing? But like no, it's yeah, the songs just do sound very, very similar. And I was like, Annie, to my credit, I was kind of a naysayer because Solar Power came out as a single, and Annie, friend of the show, Kanye aficionado, Ripperoni, more on that later, is like going to like she was saying that I don't know, I'm getting like a very dreary Lana vibes from Lorde, and I was like, I don't know, this is the first single, gotta wait to hear the whole thing. That's what I usually always say, but like Annie
Yeah,
nailed that honestly. Like this,
nailed it on the first track because I didn't get it from Solar Power. I thought, okay, this is going to be like a stripped back, almost like how Taylor Swift's Folklore came out. Nevermore were kind of those like stripped back pop between pop and indie, and I was like, okay, let's see how that goes. But then like that middle part of this record, I go, oh god,
and
it's not a look.
and
It's
that's
not
why
a
she got
look.
that's why she got dragged on Twitter. Like it was she commented kind of like slyly like maybe the album will grow on you like sweat face or whatever.
I'm sorry, this ain't the Keenan Limbs, okay? It doesn't like grow on you after years and years, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, this album is incredible. But it just took, 6 acid trips and and a 6-pack of Kolsch to figure out what the hell Tom York was trying to say. The issue is with. I'm going to dive into my hating on Jack Antonoff's production on this year, especially because he makes the same fucking sound over and over again for the past year and a half. And I complained about it earlier this year a couple of times on his Bleachers record, on Lana's record, on some of the Taylor stuff last year. And now, Lorde, like you hear it throughout it where it's just now you're going between these two artists and these sounds sound so similar. How do you, as a producer, not go in there and be like, oi, unless you're trying to make it do that and almost have like a cookie cutter thing in there, which is horrible. How do you not have the ear to figure it out when my dumbass can do that?
Yeah,
And
like you're
it's just
you're quality controlling the album. You listen to it start to finish, and you like get to this middle part, and you're like, these are fine songs in isolation, okay, even, but
exactly,
like it's
yeah.
just not what you would put together in an album this long. A 43-minute long album from Lorde should be like easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Like it should be totally fine.
It should flow. It should just like give you. It doesn't necessarily need to be bangers because it could be like her stuff. Like a melodrama didn't have too many things in there that were like super radio friendly or whatnot. They were all fantastic tracks.
But
But
it
everything
just
in there, it has a story. It flows well. It gives you like it makes you look forward to the next track, the next one to figure out exactly what the whole thing, what she wants to say within there. But then here it gets said at the very beginning, and then in that middle it just gets drowned out because it's just very lackadaisical.
everything else, it's a lull. Yeah. I'll say it picks up around Mood Ring, one of the last singles at the very end. And then you
Hmm.
get something that, similar to Solar Power, like kind of gets up there. And again, like, Lord, you don't need to make upbeat music all the time at all, but like it's
That does it. No.
variety is kind of like what we're asking for here. And there was such like little variety in the depth of the album, the
Because
most of the album. Like
yeah, ex-
it's
exactly. Because
bookended really. Like the first like Solar Power and then Mood Ring are like the big ones essentially. And
yes,
then you don't have anything in the middle, like none of the acoustic tracks like Stone of the Nail Salon, at least to me, or like Secrets from a Grove Scene at all, really like go up to that next level, unfortunately, I think, in
yeah.
their sound. And it sucks. Like I think lyrically they're okay and they're like a little bit
Lyrically,
something
they're
there.
fine.
But
Exactly.
without,
It's just
but especially without any sound difference, it's very much like Lana Del Rey.
it's very similar to that, and we had many issues with that like with multitudes of their album earlier this year, Chemtrails of the Country Club. It was just not very well done. But if you go like you said, you didn't need to make it up. You don't. She doesn't need to make upbeat songs all the time. If you look at her first album on Pure Heroine, after Royals, you have Ribs and Buzzcut Season, which is Ribs is still my favorite Lorde song by far. But after Royals, you have two of those songs that are not very upbeat. They're really like introspective and pretty deep within there, and there isn't anything that's like super upbeat right after the track. So you don't necessarily. She never has to do that, and she tends not to in a lot of her on those two records. But with this, it's just yeah, it's very disappointing, and I think Jack needs to go back to the drawing board and honestly take a break from doing a lot of production stuff because you can now really hear issues within his own stuff. And I mean, I heard Lorde say stuff of Jack saying stuff too of, oh, Lorde really has a lot of the production sound and so that. I'm like, but you could always go in and say, hey, look at this. Hey, this sounds a bit too similar to this or this or that, and to try and change it up. That's what a producer's there supposed to do. Dan cuts me off before I say something incriminating of myself or other things, or like we go and stop and we replay whatever we have to do because that's what a good producer does. But when you're not and you just have this idea in your head, but you did that same idea for 3 other pop artists and then you make the same thing, it's just not, it's going to end up being bland.
Right.
And I like to make my Metro Boomin comparison because if you look at Metro Boomin, like he takes his long ass time between a lot of projects. Like he'll have a lot in a year, and then he'll take like a year completely off, and then he'll randomly come back and he isn't like going crazy with a lot of production stuff. Yeah, so that's always my big thing.
On the producer thing, just really fast, I would say that there's kind of an ethos right now that the job of a producer is to compliment the artist. But I think that's partially true, but also you have to tell the artist like, hey, do something different. Like, hey, like adjust your sound, broaden it.
You're there as a second opinion.
Yes.
You're there to, if Elon Musk had a yes man, you're there as the no man.
Every good like institution needs a no guy, actually. It helps. Honestly. Not no really all helps. The time, of course, but like yes all the time is also like not a good thing either. But anyways, Lorde can do better. There's a lot of potential here, but this one gave it a couple listens, still not quite feeling it other than a couple of songs. So nah, sorry.
Yeah, and the thing that I'll give her credit for is she did have a different sound within herself. Within those 3 records are very different between all 3. So I'll give you credit on that because we always do that on Audioface, no matter who it is. But Jack, no, fuck you. Stop producing stuff because your production sounds identical between 3 artists. That's bad. So kick your feet up and chill, please. Right. And other female pop artists, don't recruit them, please, for God's sake.
Fucking seriously. Arbitrary Scale. This
oh, that's right. So yeah, we have a Arbitrary Scale. Dan's former coworkers' houses because we live in an era where we judge everybody by what houses they buy by either
your political ideology. Your political ideology is directly related to the size house you have, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage.
Does it have 2 pools? Does it got a yard? Does it come with a maid? Like these are important questions we ask ourselves every day.
Koozie or nah, this is what Audioface is all about. So koozie or cussy, this is what Audioface is all about. On that, I feel very uncomfortable with this Arbitrary Scale. What do you want to give this?
I don't know what's bad or worse. Is it like judging by like the house, or is it judging by the person or the character of the purchase? Like this is what we got to figure out.
I think like many Arbitrary Scales we do on Audioface, we do it because the review stands on itself, and whatever we make the scale is not supposed to make any sense whatsoever. But I do think there should be somewhat of a scale since we're comparing these albums to each other in this episode. I think it's somewhat like a house is a home kind of thing. The person makes it to some extent, and the person's ill-gotten gains may or not make it. So I'm gonna give this the Rave Dubin.
I was literally gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna give this to Rafe Dubin because I feel like Jack is just a stumbling idiot everywhere. Just like walking around walls, be like, Williamson doesn't seem to like me, and all that stuff. So
Oh, listen, Lord, I've been working really hard in the basement. I've come up with some really good, high level, important ideas for your next album.
maybe you should listen to this folklore track I made for Taylor Swift, and maybe you'd like it too.
Hear me out. What if Jordan Peterson were on this album? Just to, just like a quick,
Maybe get some
like
stuff.
an
Maybe get some
afterwards.
self help into your album. It may help.
I think nothing is more empowering than crabs. Okay.